If you look back at the recent history of fly fishing, you'll find that streamer fishing was a different game. A streamer was something you tied on when dries and wets didn't work, or when the water was too high and dirty to fish anything else. Modern streamer fishing looks a lot different. Fly fishers now sometimes fish them throughout the day and not just at opportunistic moments. And the flies have gotten a lot bigger. In this show, we'll explore how streamer fishing has evolved and how to take advantage of this exciting and visual method of fly fishing.
Oh, yeah, nice fish!
That fish has already refused that fly. You're gonna have to try just a slightly different pattern.
The roll cast pickup is a great cast to use in a lot of fishing situations.
This is a beautiful wild trout from a small stream. Just a gorgeous little fish.
I say hit that bank. Let's go to that grass bed.
The ultimate guide to fly fishing is supported by Orvis Fly Fishing, Algoma Country, Destination Ontario, Maine Office of Tourism, Yellowstone Teton Territory, Crazy Rainbow Ranch, Bahamas Tourism, Adipose Boatworks, Global Rescue, Trout Unlimited,
You can catch big trout on nymphs and dry flies, but most experienced anglers know that to catch the biggest trout in the river, you need to fish big flies. Large trout don't feed as often as smaller trout, and they may feed only once a day or even once every few days. When they leave their protected lies to feed, unless a heavy hatch is in progress, they're more likely to look for bigger morsels they can capture with less energy. Baitfish, frogs, mice, and large crayfish. Fly tyers and anglers in Michigan and the Rockies have, in the past 20 years, modified the size, shape, and action of streamers to better imitate larger food sources, and in some cases have just developed flies that are nothing more than modified versions of spin lures. Large wild trout have been known to eat 7-inch stock trout, and in some rivers, it's a primary source of food for them. So we know the traditional 2 to 3-inch trout streamer can be improved upon. There are times when a smaller streamer just does not trigger the aggression or meet the calorie need of a large, hungry trout. To get these big, enticing streamers, tyers often use long, flowing materials like marabou and rabbit fur. And to get the length needed, they often make articulated patterns that incorporate a hook on a trailing stinger to take advantage of short strikes. Streamer fishing is so exciting, it's so visual, and it's violent, but it isn't always on. You would think you could just throw a streamer out here and a big brown trout, if he's around, would just jump on it, but that's not the case. Some days the streamer bite is on, some days it's not. Luckily, today the streamer bite is on for us. In order to effectively fish streamers in rivers or lakes, it's important to use the right fly line, or at least a modification of your line. If you fish big, deep rivers, or those with a heavy flow, you'll need to go beyond your standard floating line, especially because many of these modern streamers use deer hair heads which buoy the fly up in the water. And many modern techniques call for using an unweighted or neutrally buoyant fly on a sinking line to be most effective. Ooh, there's a fish.
There he is.
Oh,
good one, too.
Not a bad one at all. Switching to that sinking line.
Yep, get it down in front of him.
Yeah, that's a good fish.
I've noticed sometimes when they get lazy, they'll watch those things swim over their head, but if they don't swim right in front of their face,
Oh, is he stuck on something?
no,
Or is he just,
he's just
he's just
strong.
big.
They're just strong, super strong.
Oh, that's a nice fish.
Hey, stay
wow.
They don't like the world coming down on them.
Whoa, man. You're okay.
Okay,
Whoa.
there you go. All right.
Woo.
Good job. Good job.
Your general purpose streamer line for most rivers and streams is a sink tip line with 12 to 15 feet of high density sinking line. It's ideal for getting a streamer down in the water column fast and keeping it there throughout the retrieve. For the very largest rivers, I also sometimes use a depth charge line in heavy water, which incorporates a full 30-foot sinking tip with an intermediate running line. It's your choice what kind of knot you use to attach a streamer to a heavy tippet like this. Some anglers prefer a loop knot because they feel it allows the fly to dart and wiggle in the current better. If you fish sinking lines, it's a good idea to modify your casting. Sometimes making one short cast to get your line on the surface and then a delivery cast works well. But let's visit casting instructor Pete Kutzer to get some detailed tips on casting sinking lines.
I'm going to talk to you about casting sinking lines and intermediate lines. When I make a cast, if I want to get a tighter loop, I like to stop right around eye level. Today I want to talk to you about casting sinking lines and ways you can use these really effective tools to catch fish in deep water situations. Sinking lines are great effective tools when you're fishing large bodies of water like this lake, maybe the ocean, even rivers in high water situations. With these sinking lines though, they do provide a challenge. When we cast that line out onto the water and it starts to get down deeper and deeper in the water column, we can't pick that line out back off the water to reset and make another cast. So we have to do a couple things. We can either strip this line in, get to that shorter length of line, and then start to false cast this line out, back out to our target, or we can do that roll cast pickup. Strip it into a moderate length, make a roll cast, then we can pick it up and shoot it back out. When we're fishing with these sinking lines and we have a large fly on, or even a small fly, we do have to open up our loop a little bit. We want to open up that loop just a little bit using what's called a constant tension cast or a Belgium cast. We're going to make a lower back cast, bring a rod up, and then make a high overhead forward cast. This constant tension cast keeps that line under tension, like its name says, and allows us to get that fly out there with a lot less effort and gets us right on target. I'll make a low angle back cast, bring the rod up over the top, and it keeps everything nice and easy so we can deliver that fly out to our target. Low angle back cast, over the head forward cast. Low angle back cast, over the head forward cast. That constant tension, keeping that leader nice and straight, is going to help get that fly out there with a lot less effort when we're using sinking lines.
Now that you've learned about the flies and lines, let's explore how to present the fly in all kinds of water. The traditional way of fishing a streamer is to cast across the river or at 45 degrees downstream and strip back. This works well, but there are many subtleties you can incorporate into your streamer game. In streamer techniques, whether you're stripping the fly or just swinging it, keep your rod tip low and pointed at the fly. Don't think of striking. Just keep stripping until you feel the solid weight of the fish. Raising the rod tip to strike a fish may pull the fly away from a fish, and you also can't always get a solid set by using the rod. It's much better to strike with your stripping hand than quickly lifting the rod to fight the fish. Baitfish and crayfish don't often swim across current lanes, especially in faster water. They either struggle upstream or they dart downstream when being pursued by trout. By introducing a mend into your cast, either with a reach cast or by mending after the fly line hits the water, you can swim your fly upstream or downstream for longer distances than if you began your strip immediately. Additionally, an upstream mend can help to sink your fly a bit more before you start your retrieve. As with any kind of fly fishing, you need to experiment with your retrieves until you find what works. In streamer fishing, it's especially important, as changing conditions can change the mood of the fish even from one day to the next.
So there's a number of ways you can fish streamers. One is you can just cast across the current or quartering downstream and just let the fly swing. Maybe put a little mend in there to get the fly down a little bit, and then just let it swing in the current. Do nothing else. Let it come all the way around, strip it a few times back to you, pick up and cast again. You can fish a streamer upstream and kind of strip it back to you. You can strip it fast, or you can strip it with some pauses and let it flutter in the current. You don't have to worry about detecting a strike because the fish will really hammer this fly. And the other way you can do it is you can take that cross-stream delivery, and instead of swinging the fly, you can strip it and make it move. Sometimes you want to strip steadily. Sometimes you want to do maybe a couple little strips and then pause. Mix it up, because you never know on any given day what approach and what retrieve the fish are going to prefer.
It's always a smart idea to listen to guides or just watch local anglers fish streamers. Here, Blake Jackson explains his streamer philosophy on the North Platte River in Wyoming.
I think there's multiple techniques that we use when streamer fishing, but generally with a floating line, really kind of what you're doing, Tom, is ideal, where you throw it in super tight. And my big preference is to give it 2 or 3 good strips off the bank and then slow it down just a little bit in order to let it sink.
Okay.
And I'm also a big fan of, mending it if need be. I think a lot of folks don't, a lot of anglers don't think about mending a streamer line, but you can often get, a big downstream loop to it that'll accelerate it to a point, not allowing the streamer to sink a little bit.
In general, if the water temperature is below 50 degrees, you'll want to slow down your strips and use frequent pauses. As the water warms and trout are more likely to chase your fly a long distance, you can speed up your retrieve. I've had trout in 60-degree water chase my fly over 50 feet, right to my feet. In smaller streams, where you don't have the luxury of mending line or using a sink tip line to get the fly deeper, you often need to use a heavily weighted fly on a floating line with a longer leader. You need to get the fly quickly into those deeper pockets. Sometimes, especially in slower water, fishing unweighted streamers on a long leader can dredge up trout, even in bright sunlight.
Come on, fish.
Oh, there's one.
There it is.
Whoa.
Gonna hit the anchor.
Oh, jump. It's not a huge fish, just got a lot of spunk.
Nice
We
job,
were just
Tom.
talking about how slow it had gotten. Tough fishing streamers in the middle of a bright sunny day. Thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
You can fish streamers at short distances using a modified Euro nymphing technique. None of your fly line touches the water, so it helps to have a long leader, over 12 feet long, and a longer rod to keep fly line off the water. Use a small, heavily weighted streamer or a split shot ahead of your streamer. Lob the fly upstream, and with a high rod tip, keep constant tension on the fly and twitch it slightly as it rolls down in the current. This is a deadly imitation of a sculpin or a crippled baitfish. Trout spey is a relatively new and fun way to fish streamers while covering a lot of water. You can do it with an ordinary fly rod or with a light two-handed rod commonly known as trout spey or micro spey rod. These rods offer the ability to make a much longer cast using a modified Skagit line, and they're especially useful if you have limited backcast room. A sinking head on the end of the Skagit line allows you to get your flies deeper on the swing.
Sometimes when you're trying to do this, you have your back against the stream and you can't make a back cast. So you're forced to roll cast. And it can be tough to roll cast halfway across the river. One of the ways to do this is to use a modified two-handed cast. So you can do a little snap tee or a double spey or a single spey, and that'll set you up for your roll cast, and then you can make a roll cast across the river. So I'm here in this big flat pool. I'm trying to get across there. It's very efficient, it's less tiring, and it's kind of fun. It's not going to be as pretty as with a two-handed rod because you don't have that length and that slower rod, but it works pretty well.
You can swing the fly just like you would for salmon or steelhead, or you can introduce short pulses with the rod tip or with your stripping hand to move the fly. Swinging streamers is so much fun, and some days you have your heart set on it, but they don't always produce, so you have to adjust and get over it. Hanging a nymph on the end of your streamer is a great trick when other things don't work. Big trout, especially browns, do a lot of feeding at night. Night fishing requires special care. First, never fish alone at night. Always go with a buddy. Second, know your water well. Never fish a stream you have not scouted during the day. You need to know where the submerged logs and drop-offs are. Flies to use at night include mice, unweighted streamers, or streamers with a deer hair head that make a wake on the surface. Black streamers are most visible at night, so keep your flies on the dark side. Some of the most exciting trout fishing is with mice because all the action happens on the surface. And mice are not only for fishing after dark. In some places, under the right conditions, trout will smash mouse patterns in the middle of the day. A mouse is a big piece of protein, and mice trigger the hunter-killer instinct of big trout. It's worth it for a trout to move 10 feet for a mouse because the energy expended in chasing a mouse is worth it. You need a floating line, a relatively stiff, short leader, like a regular knotless trout leader cut back to about 6 feet and ending in a minimum of 1X or OX, which is about 12 to 15 pounds break strength. Cast your fly to a likely spot, sometimes right up on the bank. Try a twitch and pause retrieve or a slow, steady retrieve. Sometimes just swinging the fly in the current, especially in the tails of pools, can be effective. You'll get a lot of short strikes on mice. Fish may try to drown a mouse, so resist the impulse to strike by raising your rod tip. Just keep stripping, and if you don't connect, keep moving the fly, as the trout may come back for a second pass. Keep stripping until you feel the solid weight of a fish. When you're on a new river, just trying to find out if any large trout are present, a mousefly is an exciting way to at least locate them.
So we're here in a different river today. It's the outlet of a lake, and it's, as you can see, it's wider, shallower, but there's a central current out here where it's deeper, where we think the trout are. Not knowing anything else, I'm gonna start out with a mousefly, see what happens. So this is the biggest brook trout of my life. I can tell you that for sure, because I've never caught one over 15 inches before. Wow. Okay, wow. Oh my God. Look at those colors.
The surface strikes to mouse imitations are some of the most adrenaline-pumping moments in fly fishing. But unless you have your heart set on fishing surface flies, conventional streamers will land big trout for you on a more reliable basis.
Whoa! Whoa! Was that fish taking my streamer there? Because the streamer was kind of deep. Was that fish actually a big fish though? Oh my God, look at this fish. Oh, and the colors. Whoa. Oh, look at how deep that fish is. Ooh, there's a fish, little brown.
That way she'll turn over tight in these bushes, you know?
That's a pretty brown.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Looks Lockhaven almost.
Yeah. Thanks for watching our show on modern streamers. You know, you don't always catch big fish on streamers, but it's always fast-paced, it's exciting, sometimes it's visual.
You'll notice that we concentrated more on streamer fishing technique than we did on choosing fly patterns and colors. Honestly, I think picking a streamer is more a matter of luck and whimsy, and in the long run, it might not matter that much. Sure, there are some days when a particular streamer pattern seems to light up the fish, but I'm not sure that any old streamer might work. Pick a streamer, fish it various ways, and then if it doesn't work, it just might not be a streamer day. The unpredictability is what makes fly fishing fun.
The Ultimate Guide to Fly Fishing is supported by Orvis Fly Fishing, Algoma Country, Destination Ontario, Maine Office of Tourism, Yellowstone Teton Territory, Crazy Rainbow Ranch, Bahamas Tourism, Adipose Boat Works, Global Rescue, Trout Unlimited.